So Eddie Hearn recently confirmed that Devin Haney versus Lewis Crocker as a welterweight unification bout for the WBO and IBF welterweight titles probably isn't going to happen purely because of the money that each guy wants. Now, this doesn't really surprise me, and the only way this fight was ever really going to get made was if either Devin Haney or Lewis Crocker was willing to take a lot less money. Now, I could see Lewis Crocker be willing to take a bit less money, assuming the fight takes place in Ireland or Northern Ireland where he's from. Then I could see him taking less money. But Devin Haney was a guy who was never going to take less money. Devin Haney was always going to want big amounts of money for this fight, even though this is an easy fight for Devin Haney. This is, in my opinion, very routine fight for Devin Haney, and he'll win that fight easily, and he'll claim another world championship. Like, in my opinion, because there's no risk, there's not any real risk in Lewis Crocker beating Devin Haney. I'm surprised Devin Haney wouldn't do this fight for relatively cheaply. You know, you do it for, I mean, it'd still be a 7-figure payday. You know, you're an undefeated world champion fighting another undefeated world champion. So, okay, it'd be a 7-figure payday, but it wouldn't be more than, I'd be surprised if it was more than 1.5, 2 mil. Really is what Devin Haney should be making for that. You know, give Lewis Crocker a mil, give Devin Haney a mil, 1.5, 2 mil. That fight could get made. But likely, knowing Devin Haney, he probably wants, upwards of 4 mil. And then Lewis Crocker, he's thinking, well, if he's getting 4 mil and I'm not even getting 1, then there's a weird dynamic here. And I appreciate that. Eddie Hearn did say the only way this fight gets made is if Turkey Al-Sheikh backs it. And, this is the case for a lot of fights in boxing where financially they don't make sense. And that's business at the end of the day. If you want boxing to be a business, I mean, a lot of people don't want boxing to be a business, but boxing is a business, and ultimately in business, if it doesn't make money, the fight's not going to take place, ultimately. Unless you've got someone like Turkey Al-Sheikh that's willing to come in and bankroll everything and is willing to, blindly fund all these fights and all these events with no sort of route to making that money back, really, and isn't really bothered whether he makes that money back or not, ultimately, Turkey Al-Sheikh isn't really bothered where, if he puts on a Devin Haney v Lewis Crocker fight, he knows, these aren't big enough names for him to make a ton of money off. So he'll put the fight on. It'll help boxing. It will, help unify the division, mean there's one less champion at the weight division. So, it's good for boxing if this fight takes place, but ultimately, because of the money, it probably won't, unless Turkey Al-Sheikh is willing to bankroll it. And I don't know if he showed any interest in that. I actually think it would be it wouldn't be an exciting fight because Devin Haney would make it a boring fight. But like I said, having the WBO and IBF world champions sort of unify is never a bad thing in my opinion. Having unification bouts between two undefeated world champions is never a bad thing. So I'll be curious to know what you guys think. I mean, I did make a video about this saying this fight was going to happen because, Eddie Hearn and Bill Haney seemed interested in making this fight happening, but obviously the interest wasn't too strong from either end. That doesn't surprise me, really. But I would be super curious to know what you guys think of, the news of this fight probably not happening. Are you surprised? Do you think it still will happen? Do you think Turkey Al-Sheikh will come in and maybe bankroll something like this? I'd be curious to know what you guys think in the comments below. And if this fight was to take place, who do you think would win? Like I said, let me know in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.